identified as one that had potential. So, yes.
What inner circle do you know? They identify two sites, Harcourt Sands, and they said that they should be compulsory purchased by the council.
Yep.
That was right. No
No.
Esplanade.
There was Ryde Castle Road and Ryde
The
Esplanade.
Esplanade was wonderful utopia.
I think, I'm not going to argue because it's in the document that's available on the council website.
Yeah, we've all read it. We've all read it. I'd actually like to know if you agree with the Well, I'd like
Shall I try and get through the presentation?
Yes, please.
Okay. We also know that an awful lot of work has been done on the Esplanade in the past. So we've had the interchange project, we've had the public realm strategy, we know that the Chamber of Commerce worked with the Town Council to look at a master plan, and so this was certainly something that we knew we had to build on rather than looking at everything from scratch in a way that we've done, say, with Nicholson Road, which is a green field. So it's our role to really assess options, and options are as long as a piece of string. And so what we do is we look at a variety of different options for development, and we make an assessment as to whether or not development could deliver the value that could pay for the stuff that we know people want. And on the Esplanade, we know people want better public realm, better green space, better transport interchange, and those things come with a price tag. And so really what we've been looking at is whether or not there are ways in which we can fund that through development. And what we do is we take it down to a more granular level of options appraisal, and we decide whether or not there is actually a reason for the council to put in more energy, more resources, and more money to continue the discussion, to take it to a full business case, which is where you would end up seeing plans going through the planning process for agreement.
What does public realm mean?
Public realm is everything from landscape, everything outside buildings, really. That's not within private ownership. So the project vision is up there on the screen if you can't read it at the back. It really talks about transforming the interchange and Esplanade into a well-designed, efficient, sustainable and vibrant gateway to the Isle of Wight, which provides easy access to a thriving tourism, leisure and retail offer that acts as an extension of the town centre and maximises its unique setting. And what I put in red there is that the question that we have to ask is, can we deliver this through development? So what's happened so far? On all the sites that we look at a range of different options. We look at how could we possibly put the maximum development on that site. So looking at a comprehensive regeneration of the sites in question. We also look at the sort of slightly do nothing option. So what would happen if we just didn't do very much? Would we still be able to deliver the outcomes that we know we want to deliver? And we then look at some various options in between, which we from Ryde have called strategic intervention and limited intervention. So we've looked at a range of different development options to assess whether any of those would deliver out the finance, the money to be able to do the good things that we know people want on the seafront. And I'm sure you've all had a look at the posters up on the walls and their copies on your table, but that's just a visual representation of the options that we've been looking at. At this stage, they don't need to be clear, because really
Of course they do! Oh no!
it's about looking at quantities of development, where those red dots can be moved, but it's really about looking at what types of development and how much of that kind of development might give the right kinds of value. So whilst they are visually represented as they are there, you could move any of those red blobs around within the site. It's about looking at the quantum and the types of development.
So you could move those red blobs to Harcourt Sands then?
We could, but whether
Why hasn't that been considered then?
Whether, at the moment, we've looked at Ryde Esplanade.
Because it's an easy sell-off.
At the moment, we've looked at Ryde Esplanade as a site in itself, and I think when I get to the end of this, one of the questions that we're now beginning to ask ourselves is, do we look at wider sites within the Ryde area? So
Should have been a question on the first day.
there's no option offered at the Charlotte Site Match. Site Match is an event where you go with various different development options, and we took a number of them. Nothing was the whole site. Was saying
The whole site.
for the whole site. But it's,
Can you define the whole site, please?
Yeah, so
at
what's
the
the whole
moment, we're
site?
looking at everything from Western Gardens to the start of the boating lane.
So the whole site.
So
was
narrow,
offered.
that.
At site match, the whole site was offered.
Wide.
It was part of a part of our development, not a part of our regeneration envelope, where we are trying to attract investors to the island. Yes.
Can we let the lady finish her presentation? I know she's got very, very valid points to make, but unless we hear what she's got to say, it's quite hard to critique it. So let's hear the presentation, then criticise afterwards.
So when we look at those options, we look at them in a number of different ways. We look at the cost of what that development will be. We look at the income that that might generate, which will then deliver whether or not you can actually get some value out of that site. So, i.e., does it cost less than you would be able to get in terms of either sales or rentals or commercial activity, and that gives you your value at the end. But we don't only look at things in terms of finances, because we are a public sector body and we're not only about finances, we're actually also around what we call community impact benefit or social benefit. So we actually look at what the wider benefits of the site might be, and in some cases, particularly for Ryde Esplanade, actually the wider social benefits around improving people's access into the town and the Esplanade are probably of higher strategic value than the finances. So that's one thing that we always look at, is looking at what are the social benefits to change in an area. What has come out of the work that we've done in terms of finances is that none of those options for development have actually come up with a positive land value, which means that none of them are financially viable. So none of those options that we've looked at will deliver enough value to be able to improve the station and the transport interchange, to be able to do a really good public ground, to be able to deal with the bus shelter, to move the bus station, to put a better pedestrianisation in. Because we have some really high infrastructure costs and really high public ground costs. That would require really high value development to fund that. And we know that commercial development doesn't give us as high a return as residential. And so we've looked at different types of residential value. And whilst we were looking at this, option 3A started to look like it might make sense financially. However, which is looking at development on St Thomas Street car park, and then looking at development potentially of high value residential development, sort of around Eastern Gardens, although you could put that quantum anyway. It's a quantum of development. It's looking at, you could move that anyway. That's what it is. So we looked at a mixed use development. In building behind the seawall, because building in front of the seawall adds extra cost in terms of its repaying land, and there's some issues with sea level rises in the future. So we looked at building behind the seawall, and we looked at residential or holiday letting or retirement villages or retirement homes, because they come with a higher value than normal market sales. We looked at including visitor attraction, community uses, cafes, restaurants, heritage features, flexible space, and looking at a new layout for the bus interchange and the transport interchange. And we also looked at developing St Thomas Road car park. So that's really what option 3A it was all about, and it was those types of development could really be placed anywhere over it, but that's how we looked at what value could be taken out. But as I said, it was actually unviable at the end. Because it would be development on, it would be reliant on houses selling at 54% above market value, which is just not realistic. It would also mean developing on more of the Esplanade than we know is locally desirable, with a heavy focus on residential development, because that's where our highest value is on the island, and again, we know that that is not popular. And it really is, it was more about looking at how we can fill in gaps rather than actually a full-scale change and making some marked improvements across the seafront. So the conclusion is, we've looked at a range of different development options, and we have come to the conclusion that there is no development-led approach that we have found so far, and others, I know that others may have other opinions, that will deliver the value to be able to put in the infrastructure, the public realm, the landscaping, the green spacing, the greenscaping that we know that people want. But because of the importance of the site, and because we know that the social value and the community impact benefit of making some real changes to the way people arrive in Ryde and what happens on the seafront are so huge, that we think that it's definitely worth us reconsidering how we look at this particular site. So, what can we do? So really we can act as a coordinator. When we started this process, we didn't know what was going to happen with Island Line. We now know that Island Line has a new owner. We know that they're going to put some investment into the station, into the trains, and so we've already started, the partners within the scheme have already started making some changes, or talking about making some changes. So how do we act as a local coordinator for that? And how do we, through a plan-making approach that is wider than just the Esplanade, that links back into the town centre, that links all the way probably through Appley and down to Del Cafe. That feedback that actually the site needs to be coordinated the whole way along. So we can do that. We can act as a local ringleader. We can engage more. We get all the information that we're getting back through stakeholder feedback is helping us shape and define and form a new vision and a new approach to the site. We can also act as a catalyst to development. So one of the things that we can do is we can, through the solar transport project, solar transformation fund, we can look at how we can access funding to make some of the changes within the public realm without a development-led approach. And we can also identify the route to delivery. So we can say, well, is this a site that we need a strategic partner to come and put some capital in? Is it a site that actually we just need an agreed master plan so that it's sitting on the shelf when the right funding comes along, and we can then implement the project on a piece-by-piece basis? So we can start to look at these sorts of options. We're done. So where to next? So as I said, we've not identified a straightforward development option for discussion. So there's nothing that we want to put on the table and say, how would you feel if you built this? Because actually, what we've shown is that no quantum of development, having all house model, will deliver the outcomes that we think people want. So we're going to go back to the drawing board. We're going to look at the site brief. Is the brief right? Is the site right? Have we got the red line boundary right? Should we be looking at a site that runs the full way, all the way down to Del Cafe and taking in Appley? Should we be looking at a much wider brief that takes in a wider master planning approach to the whole of Ryde? Should we look at land assembly? So by that we mean, are there other sites in the local area, Harcourt Sands potentially being one of them, now that it's kind of back on the market, where we can leverage value out of that we can start to put into the public realm in the Esplanade? And then we need to look at what others are doing. So what are the other partners within the development envelope bringing to the table that we didn't know about when we started on this journey a couple of months ago? So this is the start of the conversation. This is the start of a comprehensive engagement plan where we will piggyback on events. So hopefully over the summer we will have stands at IsleOfWight.LIVE, we will have stands at various other events that go on, where we get to talk to people and get to understand what they like about the Esplanade, what they don't like about the Esplanade, where they want to see change, where they don't want to see change. We will run a series of workshops, design charrettes, and try and engage in a variety of different ways. Lots more of these great to see rooms full of this many people, which we haven't today. And I think we would really like to see a whole town approach. So I don't know if anybody knows this, but this is the approach that we've taken in partnership with Newport Parish Council and Newport Business Association to look at the whole of Newport as a place. So we've done a piece of work called Shaping Newport, where we've engaged with a huge range of people over a 4-month period, from about October last year until February this year. And really that's to understand what they like about the place, what they don't like about the place, what is an absolute red line can never be changed, what's a, I wouldn't mind if we changed that a little bit, what makes the town flow, what stops it from flowing. And out of that, we've got a really great piece of work that's identified 15 key priorities for Newport as a town. And that's an approach that we think we would like to take for Ryde as a whole. Widen this out beyond just individual sites. And I think that's what I've done. Thank you very much.
I'm going to take some questions, but I am conscious of the people who come here tonight to talk about those 3
topics. So I'm going to try and take as many questions as we can, but we've got about 10 minutes for that to happen. So, by order, and Jan.
Hello everybody, my name's Jan Brooks and I'm one of the directors of what is at the moment a community interest company, but we're applying for charity status, called Isle Access. And just to let you know that South Western Railways is going to lease to us the disused building on Ryde Esplanade Station. They've given us £50,000 recently to kickstart the project, and we are going to be opening up a cafeteria on the station with an accessible training kitchen to give opportunities to people who are disabled to be involved in the hospitality industry. We will have a changing places facility, which is larger than an accessible toilet. Once people get too big to lie on baby changing tables, they have to be changed on the toilet floor. And that means that they don't come out to... No. And so we're going to have a changing places facility, and we're also going to have wheelchair access, wheelchair hire access.
Where is this?
This is on Ryde Esplanade Station, the disused building into the...
Which disused building?
Can we have a question, please?
I'm just trying to... We're helping. We are helping with the regeneration.
You are helping. I appreciate it. It's marvellous.
Well, it's
we actually need a direct question. You've only got 10 minutes.
Yeah, I'm just trying to explain that we're working
What's the
and trying to
question?
start.
What's the question?
No, there's no question. I'm just trying
Don't worry.
I'm sorry about that, Chris. I'm just trying to help
Don't worry.
the regeneration has started.
Hello, I'm Paul Martin. I've just got two things to say. I think this Isle of Wight needs a centre park, somewhere to go in the winter and the wet. And I think that should be put on hardcourt sand somewhere like that. Also, it needs a monorail between Ryde and Newport.
That wasn't a question.
I think I just want to reinforce Nina's point. All of these suggestions and ideas and proposals can come to the fore through the engagement process that we'll be running.
May I just ask, the plans you just showed us, they're all out the window now.
They will be very useful in helping us work through any future viability issues with schemes, because we've now done all the work that says if you build X number of homes, it delivers this much value. If you build this amount of commercial space, it delivers X amount of value. So as we're working through future potential options for Ryde Esplanade, we'll be able to use all the work that we've done to feed into whether or not you have a viable scheme going forward. But none of the current combinations have come up as being viable.
Are you going to build on opposite Thomas Street car park? And if you are, where are the cars going to be?
I think there was a line in there that I probably should have said. I mean, one of the biggest issues that's come out around all of this is car parking. And it's not just Ryde, it's the Bay Area and it's Newport as well. And we also know that as part of this work, we need to do a kind of strategic review of parking and look at and think about how we can reshuffle the parking at Ryde so that we can release some of the parking funds. And it's not just the Thomas Street car park, but there are other small sites in the town centre which might be better utilised if we could reshuffle the car parking and to be able to get some of the cars off the Esplanade so the pedestrian experience as you try and walk into the town is not quite so hard and motorised. Means we do need to, we need to take a strategic look at how we deal with parking across Ryde. I don't have the answer to that yet. So Thomas Street car park is an option. but it's not dead.
Are you aware of the
Yes. I am very aware of RC's views on housing development.
Any other questions? Yes, yeah.
I can shout. Could it be clarified who we is? Is it the council? Could it be clarified who we is? Is it the council, a group, or?
We?
Yes.
We is all of us.
Well, no, it isn't. No. The lady has presented the thing.
Yes, I've got a question, and it is relevant to the presentation. I think, as I've attended all these meetings, and we know that all of us sitting around the tables want to discuss 3 priorities that have already been highlighted. I understand that some of those would require funding, but why is it that the assumption is that the funding has to come from development in Ryde? Surely this is an island-wide problem, and we have plenty of sites on the Isle of Wight, let alone Harcourt Sands, where there could be development that could fund what we want.
Can I answer this gentleman's question? The opportunity to do exactly what you described as what Lira set out in the presentation. So at the moment we're quite narrow in terms of what our focus might be, and as a result the value is difficult to justify. If we're to take a wider look at Ryde in the first instance, I have to say that we have a package of regeneration across the island, and we look at how we, as you quite rightly suggested, how we deliver community aspirations from that value. What we're getting then is a much more flexible programme of change. So I think it's a really important suggestion, and I think in terms of Ryde, we can start looking at that as a whole and bring forward the solutions that you're suggesting. I'm moving back this way, and the gentleman there has a hand up.
Yes, I've just got a question. There's an awful lot of businesses and community events already along the seafront. You've got the Waterside Pool, which is struggling already to keep going. You've got a thriving bowls club, which I see on some of the plans is either being moved or just disappearing. The Vectors Boating and Fishing Club had a successful lottery grant, and that's very well attended, does a lot of good work in Ryde. That seems to have disappeared in some of the options. Have you consulted with some of the good things about Ryde, some of the good businesses and some of the community companies that are already trying to keep going in Ryde already?
I don't want to repeat what Renier was covering in the presentation, but the purpose of the images which you've got in front of you on is not to identify specific development. It's to identify the scale and value of development, no more, no less. Anyone that tried to use that as a planning application, for example, they'd be laughed out of the council chamber. Okay? What you have to do, beyond assessing a viable project, is you have to then consult with those who might be directly impacted. You have to design a scheme which planning will accept. You have to move on to the next phase of implementation. So I think what we want to do more than anything tonight is to reassure some of the organisations you referred to and to everyone in the room that we have no specific plan. There is no specific engagement or impact on any of the organisations you talked about, and I agree with you. The richness of that set of organisations in Ryde is something to cherish and to work with. So the engagement process that we've discussed about the whole of Ryde Esplanade opportunity, they will be extremely important contributors to that conversation.
Very good. Thank you.
I would just like to know that when somebody is presenting something and they say we, and we thought that this wasn't a value enough thing, who is we?
Okay. Yeah. Right. I think that we, in our context, we're a small but perfectly formed team. Where there's 3 or 4 of us working for the regeneration team. Okay, we all have experience in doing this type of assessment.
So is this within the council?
Correct.
Or have you got outside
Not
practice?
outside on this particular project, not outside, just us.
Just the council.
This lady?
Thank you. Okay, I'm just going to tell you what I have to say, what I have to ask, and then you can address it if that's okay. Just give it all to you.
Try and speak it to them.
Okay. There are 3 top seafront problems that will not go away with your development, and I'd like you to address those. One is the critical accessibility for our disabled and our seniors, our ever-growing population there. Needs to be addressed. We want to know where this bus station is going to move, if it's going to move, because people can't get there now, walking, you know. Ryde is filthy. What are you going to do to your development? Isn't going to clean up Ryde. And the other thing I have to say is, what about the substance abusers? We have heroin and alcohol abuse all over the seafront, which is turning people away. Kids don't come back with their parents after they've been here.
Okay.
So.
Thank you very much for those really, really important issues. I think the point I would want to make is the approach that we're taking to the regeneration programme. The approach that we're taking to the regeneration programme isn't purely to construct new development and new buildings and new houses. Regeneration is about tackling exactly the issues that this lady has just been talking about. The contribution that Jan tried to make earlier on around the importance of having accessible facilities, particularly at a key point of entry into the island, is absolutely fundamental to the success of any scheme we have. Okay? The issues in relation to accessibility generally across the town, every place wants to make itself more accessible. That's really important. The difference we've been trying to apply here is you can't do everything everywhere. So at our first 2 meetings, and particularly the first one, we talked about what does the evidence base tell us? What does it tell us Ryde's challenges are? What are the things that need fixing compared to the rest of the island? So I would admit that I don't know if Ryde has a higher drug problem than anywhere else on the island. If it does, then it needs to be a project to respond to it as part of the regeneration programme. So we got a long list of issues from the first session. I'm not sure whether substance misuse was on it, but what we asked the attendees to do first time was pick those 3 key issues, which this gentleman is so anxious to start talking about in a moment. We're coming up to the end of the 10 minutes, so I'll try and get around everybody if I can.
And actually, what this indicates to me is that you're in the wrong place. You've already ruled out the 3 options that you were considering. And it sounds to me that you need more stakeholder engagement to identify the actual scope that you need to address.
Which is what we're going to do.
So the 3 groups at the moment seem slightly premature to me.
I have a question.
This Joe, this lady next.
Can you all hear me? No? I can do it without it, it's absolutely fine. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your attention just for a second. My main 2 questions being, I'm representing Ryde Super Bowl and the Pavilion and the balcony this evening. So we are prominent Ryde Esplanade. Yes, we have a drug problem. Yes, we have an issue with the skate park. Yes, we have alcoholism. Yes, we have use. You've just talked about engagement of business. To what timeline? Because nowhere in any of these have I seen a timeline. Nothing has been approached to my business, which is right on the front of everything. We are at the heart of Pride, we're at the heart of Lambretta and the heart of Scooter Weekend. I can't get disabled people around the car park. And they have to pay a ridiculous amount of money to use that car park. We're now refunding some people in underprivileged situations to use our centre. We're talking about a regeneration when we're not getting it right in the first place?
Right, I'd like to say I'm a new resident to Ryde, and fairly new, although I know the island. I'm disappointed, as my question is, why didn't I know about this before this afternoon? And I only found out by going into a local shop.
This is about the 5th one as well, isn't it?
No.
It's actually number 3. We had the first one in November.
And I'm a new resident, and I knew nothing.
And I think, you know, from past experience, clearly, at each event we've had more people turn up. We tried to promote it and engage with people. We put it in the press this time. So we have to keep working hard at that. And we also have to make these sessions productive and viable and useful for people to attend so we can capture as many views as possible. So the gentleman's point about a fully fledged engagement programme that has a whole range of opportunities, specifically for businesses as well, as part of that process, that is the next process. We can't hang around. We have to take that process through a very busy period of knowledge over the summer, but we have to start that conversation, and it will take as long as it takes, but we will do it, and we will make sure we've got that consensus we need. I can't move on to other people if that's okay.
You didn't answer my question. Where do you want to move that bus station for these people?
My apologies, the lady quite rightly pointed out where we want to move the bus station. In Renewa's presentation, there was no specific proposal around that.
How far?
So we don't have an answer. I think clearly the identification of the link, the direct link between the ferry terminal, the bus station and Island Line is a fundamental given, isn't it? You want that degree of interchange. I think that's
And
the
for
key.
the people who
So that
live
would be
here.
an overriding principle for us.
You
to
can't put
retain-
lipstick on a pig.
Retain that. Retain that. I'm moving my way.
Good evening, my name's Bob, and I used to work
Can you speak up?
major regeneration area in London. Sorry, my name is Bob, and I used to work in regeneration in London. I had a multi-million pound thing. I don't want to talk about that. What I want to ask this is, what is the island doing to get money from the local enterprise partnership, from central government, and from what remains of the European Parliament? Because if you get the funding from them, you don't need to sell off the land.
It's a really good point, and any regeneration programme needs to have that balance of public sector investment and private sector development in order to make it work. So we are, we'll set up a separate session to talk about the number of applications we've made, the engagement that our members make with ministers on a regular basis, the opportunities that we seek to still explore for the remaining time that we're part of the European Union. I could spend a whole separate presentation, I'm afraid, talking through all of that as part of our job. But please be assured, we will try to maximise as much public sector funding as we can to make what we want to deliver happen.
Just as part of that, can we just make it really clear? The focus of the regeneration team is so that the council doesn't have to sell off assets. So the council, up to now, its approach to austerity and cuts has been to sell off assets for a capital value. We're trying to change that. We're trying to look at the assets and say, how can we generate a revenue stream out of them so we don't have to sell them off as a capital asset? And grants is absolutely one way of doing that. Grants always give you your upfront capital.
Good evening. My name's Tommy Booth, and I've lived on Ryde Esplanade for over 50 years, and my family's had businesses on Ryde Esplanade for over 80 years. When I was a child, Ryde was a thriving day tripper place. I'd like to ask the council, if you want to regenerate Ryde cheaply, why don't you give thought to the asset, the brilliant asset we've got, which is some of the best beaches in the south of England. The Western Beach was a thriving area. There aren't even any steps to get down there now. And for a good few years, the council cleaned the beaches, which were mainly to the eastern side of the pit. They've stopped doing that. If you want to regenerate Ryde and bring people here, clean the beaches, make them available, and advertise in Portsmouth, because all their beaches are pebbles. And Chelsea. The best beach in Portsmouth is Ryde.
Mr. Rumira.
There was a lady who used this
One more question.
You're absolutely right. Abbey Beach, best beach on the island. Over here. And I still like it. absolutely this is a funny thing, because a lot of people who arrive in Ryde don't even know that Apney Beach exists, because the experience between the interchange and Apney isn't as pleasant or straightforward as it could be. So part of thinking straight, looking at the Esplanade more than I'm doing, is how you improve the experience of the person who arrives as a day tripper and get them to move through to use our really beautiful beach. So that is absolutely one of the thought processes behind why we're looking at this. In terms of the public services in relation to the beach, they often take money. We all know that public services have been cut. So again, another reason why we're looking at regeneration is how can we generate that revenue to put back into services so we can keep things like beach cleaning and putting the sand back, all of those going for longer. Because at the moment we are really being squeezed by central government cuts. So the whole idea around regeneration is how can we generate that revenue to go back into public services so we can keep those services going or bring those services back.
For start, sorry, for a start.
I've read the inner circle. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
I've read the inner circle consultancy document that the council commissioned, and in it, in summary, I thought it was a really sound set of recommendations. And looking at the plans that are at the front of the room, there seems to be quite a tenuous link between the recommendations that were in there and what's been thought through so far, apart from opportunities for revenue. So within the document, they talk about transparency, for one, and the importance of transparency of information process in making sure that you've got buy-in from residents, and that we're all supportive and on the same wavelength, which obviously is really important and arguably not been there so far. And it also talks quite sanely, I think, about the self-employed and Ryde in particular, and about the proportion of small businesses and self-employed people, and how you can really creatively and ambitiously sort of maximise that and really exploit that to make it a place that is buzzy and ambitious and industrious and really utilises its culture and culture in general in order to make the town a better place. And there are lots of other points that it makes. So my question really is, are you going to go back to that document and really use that as a starting point to start again? Because actually what they said 2 years ago, or 18 months ago, I think was a really excellent basis for regeneration in Ryde.
Thank you for that. I mean, I think part of looking at site isolation and just talking about the Esplanade here tonight doesn't let you know what we've been thinking about and working on other sites. So, for example, take Nicholson Road. That's a little bit further down the line. We've done some concept design works on that, and we're about to see if we can engage people to take it to the planning stage. And integral to that is thinking about how do we have incubator units, how do we have start easy in, easy out places that work our best. Sorry. Starter units, small units where businesses that might be in somebody's garage could move into because potentially they might want to take on an extra member of staff. We know that there's a need for that in Ryde. We know that there are currently about 8 units like that on the Ryde Business Park, and they are oversubscribed. So we are looking at that, particularly on Ryde Nicholson Road. We're also looking at creating an island-wide innovation hub, which would have a centre based, potentially housed, but that has a hub and a link back to Ryde, to Newport, to the Bay Area, to Ventnor, to West Wight. So it's often difficult to convey the full scope of the regeneration project when we're just looking at a single site. But I think certainly I feel like we've taken the principles out of that document. We may not have applied all of them to every site, but we've certainly been working through them and applying them to a range of sites as we work through those opportunities.
Can I just say something?
Of course, my apologies.
My name's Mike Drinkwood, I live here. We've had a terrible problem with parking, and I suppose lots of other people do, with people parking outside their house. We've put proposals for residence parking over the last couple of years. Nothing's come back about it in actual fact. They've gone into a big hole. Now, this big hole is the thing that lots of these things, all these wonderful words, wonderful ideas are going into, because nobody's bloody well accountable. And I'm sorry, and I'm saying to you, if you look at any big city, any town, they're parking, the residents pay a little bit for all their cars, and all the people who come into that town go and use the big, huge empty car parks when they go and get on the boat or the hovercraft. That doesn't happen here. It should. That's a little thing. That's probably $750,000 plus per annum would be coming into our little coffers. But the planners or whoever those wonderful people are, it's their hole. They don't do anything about it. So I don't know about you.
The question is, what is the solution?
That's right. I think Renew did mention about parking being a really important issue for the town, and as part of the whole town approach, part of any whole town approach to look at parking. In terms of accountability, clearly we're not going anywhere. Despite the sense this has been a fantastic session this last hour, we'll continue to hold these types of sessions. We'll hopefully be more productive as we move on. We're up to an hour on this now. Okay. I'm going to afford you to one more question.
You stated a couple of weeks ago on the Wight that you had no intention of developing the Esplanade area. This was after I threatened to publish these documents. Is it still not your intention?
The intention is...
That's what you stated on the Wight, that we have no intention.
There was no specific program, no specific plan, no decision being made. Okay? I'm saying I don't like being misquoted. I also, just for the record, okay, I also take great offence at my integrity being questioned. Okay, so I just want to set out how everybody that came to these workshops in the first session signed up to a set of ground rules. Okay, and everybody agreed what those were, respecting those who were in the room, listening to what people say. Okay, for those who want to work with us to improve the future of Ryde, we want to have that kind of relationship. I acknowledge we've got to work hard, and we've got to evidence trust, and we've got to develop that relationship from here on in. But what I want to do is I do not want to be misquoted, and I do want what I want to do is finalise this part of the meeting by re-emphasising the Neera's presentation. That from here we're looking to shape that future, not just for the Esplanade, but the wider town in conjunction, not just with the people in this room. Fantastic as you all are, we want to gain a wider cross-section of people, engage with a wider range of interests. So please take the advantage of coming back to these sessions, take the advantage of coming to the engagement, not specifically on the Esplanade opportunity, but I am now going to take a 5-minute break, because I'm sure that the people in the room that need to use the facilities, they're back out in the main hall. Okay? And then after the break, we're going to resume to look at the 3 topics: greening Ryde on this table, youth opportunities on that table, and empty buildings on this table. Okay? For those who are not able to join these tables, what we will do is we'll provide you with some writing materials where you can share with us some of your thoughts on what's happened this evening. But for those who are interested in working with us on these topics, after your break, please come back and join those sessions. One of our team will be facilitating the discussion, and the objective of the session in the next hour is to come up with a specific project that should be included in the regeneration strategy around
Chris, before you go, Chris, before you go, can you tell us when the next meeting is likely to be and how you're going to publicise it, please?
Yes. We've been running these meetings on a quarterly basis up to now. Okay?
But nobody came.
So the next meeting, where are we now? May? So the next meeting will be in September.
And where will it be publicised?
This session. Well, as I've said, as Renee touched on, okay?
September.
Through each week, through each month over this period, beyond September, we will be running specific events to talk about the SME opportunity. But this session, which is going to focus on those key projects, is trying to deliver a collective idea of regeneration. The next session for this group will be in September. Okay, 5 minute break, and then we're back into the room.
Chris.
Thank you.